And that leads me to my next point with Brett Veach, who's done a phenomenal job since he's been with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll say this right now, simply put, Brett Veach is the best general manager in football. And I think if there's any stance, or if anyone's going to try to dispute this or argue that, sure, you have a right to your opinion and all of that, but you would simply be in the wrong if you want to fight that battle. And I know the number one name that anyone will put out there against Brett Veach would be Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's a great general manager. If you say otherwise, you're incorrect on that also. But what has Howie Roseman done better than Brett Veach? Okay, I mean, Howie Roseman constructed a roster big enough to prevent a three. Okay, I mean, we're not judging general managers, and really football players in general are not going to be graded or judged just on 1 year of work. You've got to look at an overall body of work if we're going to judge general managers. Again, Howie Roseman's done a phenomenal job. No one's saying otherwise. No one that's actually paying attention will say otherwise. But what has he done better than Brett Veach right now? Brett Veach has constructed a roster that's not just great. He's put together a roster to keep the Chiefs very competitive at a championship level. Since 2018, same year Patrick Mahomes took the starting reins at the quarterback position for the Chiefs have never missed an AFC championship game. The worst season with Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback, and for most of Brett Veach's time as GM, which was the 2017 offseason where he got promoted, is an AFC championship loss in overtime. The 2017 season, that was Alex Smith's final year with the Chiefs. That was a wild card loss at home to Tennessee. A rough one, but I think we can look back at that and say, yeah, that was tough, but the Chiefs are in a much better place today. Making the AFC championship, or just a conference championship game alone, 7 years in a row, hosting 6 of those 7, that's not an easy feat. By the way, they did it consecutively 5 years. And the Chiefs have reached the Super Bowl 5 of those 7 years. And again, the 2 years that they barely missed it, overtime losses. Now, regardless whether it's overtime or in regulation, they still made it to the AFC championship game all 7 of those years. And the 2 years they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, well, their worst season is an AFC championship loss. However you want to put it. The Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls. They've been to the Super Bowl the last 3 years, winning 2 of them consecutively. What general manager has done a better job than Brett Veach? Let me talk about the negatives with Brett Veach. And I'll give you a spoiler alert. This is not going to be a very long conversation here. Because Brett Veach has not always gotten it right. He's had a couple of bad signings here. I'd say Reggie Ragland, Anthony Hitchens, a couple of signings that just didn't pan out the way anyone in Kansas City wanted it to go. But the wide receiver position, he was criticized about that for a while. That narrative that he can't draft a wide receiver, that's gone away, especially with Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy the last 2 years. Yeah, I don't hear any more complaints about Brett Veach and his inability to draft a wide receiver. The only major knock, and this is a major knock on Brett Veach, is specifically the offensive tackle position. That's the only thing that you can really knock Brett Veach on. The Juwan Taylor contract and maybe some of the struggles with drafting an offensive tackle, one named Morris, Kingsley Suamataia, who's now been shifted to guard, signing DJ Humphries. A lot of these deals just haven't worked for Kansas City, specifically at offensive tackle. That's the only negative thing about Brett Veach right now. And obviously, he's got a chance to help get rid of that thought that he can't draft and bring in an offensive tackle that can be developed in Kansas City. That can go away with the Josh Simmons pick if that pans out, and I think it will. That's it. Those are the negatives right now when you want to talk about Brett Veach. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting one contract that Brett Veach gave to someone that wasn't a good deal. Maybe I'm forgetting one of those. Maybe you guys can help remind me in the chat. But in general, I mean, Brett Veach, this guy has done what he's needed to do to keep the Chiefs not just competitive, keep them competitive at a championship level. There's competitive and then there's being elite. The Chiefs have been elite the entire time. Look at the contract extensions he's handed out to Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, that big 10-year deal, which is a team-friendly deal, by the way. Extended Chris Jones, Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, Harrison Butker, now George Karlaftis. Guys who have played a very instrumental part in Kansas City's success over the last 3 years. Some of them longer than that, of course. That's what Brett Veach has done. And to go back to the Patrick Mahomes deal, when you look at average approximate value annually, Patrick Mahomes is not even in the top 10 when it comes to highest paid quarterback in the NFL, because other guys are making more money. Other guys are hitting the bank with highest paid QB in NFL history. All those things are second highest. Patrick Mahomes is pretty far down that list, considering what he's accomplished. 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 league MVPs. And look, it hasn't always been roses and rainbows in Kansas City. We know that. We've known easily in Kansas City, and whether you're a Chiefs fan or not, you know this because everyone pays attention to what the Chiefs do. You can't keep everyone. The Kansas City Chiefs have proven in the last 7 years that you cannot keep everyone, no matter how good they are. Obviously, the big one right there is Tyreek Hill. They traded him away. L'Jarius Sneed was traded away. Joe Thuney was traded away. Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed, they let those guys walk. And there are a couple more players in there we can include as well. But even though the Chiefs have not been able to keep everybody, they don't just let someone walk or trade away a key player and just say, yeah, we couldn't keep him. Too bad. Shucks. Well, we wish we could have done better. No, they find a way to make up for those holes. Remember the Tyreek Hill trade in 2022, March of 22? Everybody was talking about how the Chiefs' downfall was coming, that they're going to decline. Patrick Mahomes is not going to have anyone to throw to. Travis Kelce, he's going to get double, triple teamed every single play, and it's going to be impossible for him to have any kind of success whatsoever. Only the complete opposite happened. The Chiefs have gone to a Super Bowl every single year without Tyreek Hill. I'll never forget Super Bowl 57 when the Chiefs and Eagles were playing that week. The media narrative was, there were 2 things that everybody was talking about leading up to Super Bowl 57. Number one was Donna Kelce, because she had a son on each team, and Travis and Jason Kelce. And the second narrative was, how the hell did the Chiefs make it here without Tyreek Hill? Because Chiefs fans were annoyed that season. Remember that year when every single announcer that would broadcast a Chiefs game on CBS, Fox, ESPN, NBC, wherever, they always had to bring up that the Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill. I personally did not mind that narrative. I get it. That's a story. That's a big talking point with this football team. I mean, you have to talk about it. And Chiefs fans were annoyed by it. Now Chiefs fans love hearing about that kind of thing, because the narrative now is the Chiefs are still a competitive team, even a better football team without Tyreek Hill. Now, the offense could certainly be better. Yes, absolutely. But they found a way. Have they not either won the Super Bowl or reached it every year without him? Because I remember that narrative was, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes is only good because he has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Well, Tyreek Hill has not been on the team for 3 seasons now. Brett Veach has constructed a roster good enough to where this Chiefs team can find a way to get through despite letting go of some of these fan favorites. And listen, 2023, that was quite a year for the Chiefs, because wasn't that the year where everyone thought they were vulnerable? They were going to be one and done. And what do? They beat Miami, a team that scored a lot. And I don't want to hear about the weather, because the weather is not why Miami got blown out in that game. Miami only beat one team with a winning record that entire season. So they beat Miami, but what was next? They had to go on the road. Patrick Mahomes has never had a true road playoff game before. I mean, okay, he had the Super Bowl 55 in Tampa when the Bucks were the home team. First time ever a team got to play as the home team for a Super Bowl. But it was also, the pandemic, I guess. So you didn't have full capacity. So it didn't have the feel of a road game. Okay. But that game in Buffalo, that playoff game, that was a true road playoff game. The Chiefs went and won that one. Then they go and play in Baltimore. Well, the Chiefs were definitely going to lose that one. Nope. Chiefs won that one as well. And a fairly low scoring affair, too. 17-10. And then they beat the 49ers in the most epic way you can do it. We've only had 2 Super Bowls in overtime. That one was where both teams got possession, and the Chiefs had it in walk-off fashion. And Patrick Mahomes, right before the end of regulation, to lead the Chiefs to tie it with the field goal, and then in overtime, those 2 drives right there, in my opinion, the best drives orchestrated by Patrick Mahomes. And there were some issues in that overtime drive too, where MVS went backwards. Remember that one? But the Chiefs led the league in drops that year. Now, Brett Veach doesn't deserve credit for the Chiefs overcoming that obstacle with drops and the struggles on offense. But he had a roster in place at the time good enough to overcome that. That's what he deserves credit for. The Chiefs coaches, players, they did the rest. Brett Veach has always put a roster good enough for the Chiefs to make the AFC Championship game at the very least. In the last 3 years after trading Tyreek Hill, they've made it to the Super Bowl. Yeah, lost the last one. Still made it, though. And the 2 years before that, you won the Super Bowl. So I'll repeat that question again. Because I'm on the record saying Brett Veach, and I've said this for a long time, but I think even more so now, Brett Veach is the best general manager in football. Who has done better than Brett Veach? The only name that anyone will use as a pushback would be Howie Roseman. And with everything I just gave you, how he was able to keep the Chiefs competitive at a high level without Tyreek Hill, trading players away, letting a lot of great players walk and still being competitive. Who's done a better job at not just roster construction, but building a team good enough to still play at an elite level and reach the Final Four? I know we don't use the term Final Four in football, but if you will, the Chiefs have made it in the Final Four every year the last 7 years. Howie Roseman's great, but he has not been able to do what Brett Veach has done the last 7 years. Brett Veach and Howie Roseman, those 2 guys are 1 and 2. But there's a pretty big gap between those 2. And Veach ain't 2. I'll tell you that right now. Any argument going against Brett Veach being the best GM in football is just incorrect at this point.